please put those in the chat box, but we will come back around to either calling on you or reading them. I know that this person said that they couldn't be there for the full workshop, but we'll have those read for the record at the end of the workshop when we do the public comment segment. So just letting folks know that we're not ignoring you. We're just gonna try to go through these presentations before we get to the public comments.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you again, Maureen. Really appreciate it. Great presentation. Our next speaker is Sandy McDaniel, presenting on behalf of Wakulla Senior Citizen Council, Incorporated. The council is the CTC for Wakulla County and was awarded an ISD grant to provide TD services utilizing a transportation network company within Wakulla County and Crouse County to Leon County, primarily for employment, day training programs, education, and medical. Thank you for joining us, Sandy.
Yes, good morning. I'm Sandy McDaniel, and I'm joined with Jonathan Register, who is the Director of Development for iEnable. And he's going to be taking over, giving the presentation. I'm available for questions if you would like to interrupt during his presentation. So Jonathan?
Thank you, Sandy. I would like to take a moment to extend my gratitude to the Commission for promoting the need for the Innovation and Service Development Grant, and to the entire Wakulla Senior Citizens Council team for their continued support. And a very special thanks to Sandy. Sandy has been instrumental in the success of this project. Continuing, our goal for the ISD project was to offer an elevated public transportation service offering to the TD population with a targeted focus on the IDD community. Our service offerings included a 10-minute pickup window and a 98% on-time performance metric. Our process offering was to provide an easier way to schedule trips and an easier way to purchase trip vouchers while enabling riders to verify the trips they had taken. Ridership growth for this project has been a grassroots effort, meaning nearly 30% of our ridership were not utilizing public transportation prior to November 1st, 2022. We grew our base by working closely with TCC, Lively Tech and the SOAR program, Future Pathways, Lighthouse of the Big Bend, Pyramid, and Independence Landing. We have spoken at meetings, gave presentations, and have had personal conversations with parents to have a true understanding of what independence means for their son or daughter. Our ridership continues to grow because we provide great service through applying innovative strategies that elevate public transportation. Our driver pool is properly vetted with level 2 background checks, drug screening, along with extensive training and serving the IDD community. We use Manners That Matter, a publication that was created by Lindsay Boynton and published by Respect of Florida as a guide when onboarding new drivers. We appreciate this opportunity to provide the Commission with an in-depth look into how we established our transportation service model, coupled with our progress report based on collected trip data. David, if you would just go to the next slide. This slide shows our current trips based through October, which is when we started our grant, the last week in October, through February. And so you can see our trend line is the orange is our cumulative trips. And our trajectory, we should establish at least 58, 71 trips through the end of June. And so right now you can see where we're hitting our trips each month, and you can see where we intend to go throughout the remaining process of this grant cycle. David, if you would hit the next slide. The intended outcome for the original grant was to hit 6,262 trips. That was if we started July 1st. Our anticipation was to start off with 100 trips in July and then increase by 27.25% each month, month over month, to hit our goal. That was a very achievable goal, but we did not start until the last week in October. David, next slide. We started the last week in October with 32 trips. We continued to increase month over month, and if you see that our December, January, and February numbers outweigh our original projections on a 12-month goal. And so now our new projected trip based on our delayed execution timeline is 4455. And we anticipate hitting 5871 based on our current trajectory. David, next slide. Right now, we do cross-county trips and in-county trips. And so the orange are cross-county trips and the green are within the county. David, next slide. So we can see that in county, in Wakulla, we have done 18 trips and we have done 373 cross-county trips. Leon County, we have done 1430 in-county trips and 0 cross-county trips with a total of 1448 with 373 being the cross-county trip total. Next slide, David. If I'm going too fast, anybody can speak up and just let me know. And so we wanted to gauge our trips by purpose. And so this goes from October through February, and this shows the trajectory of each trip that we did. And so usually employment and job training are grouped together. We wanted to separate those out so you can see how it's really affecting the community that we are especially targeting. So we had job training, employment, medical, grocery, and community activities. David, next slide. Our original UDPHC goal for this project, if we had started July 1st, would have been 85. We started the last week in October. We started off with 3 riders. We brought on an additional 10 in November, which gave us a total of 13, and we continue to increase. And right now in February, we have 49 new riders to this program. Next slide, David. This is our current trend on how we provide services and of course the new customers versus current customers. October, again, let's go back to, we started off with 3 riders. November, those 3 riders turned orange because they become current customers, and then we brought on an additional 10 new riders, and you can see the amount of unduplicated people who transitioned over to December, and then our growth, January, our growth, and we continue strong growth through February. David, next slide. Our intended outcome was to serve 85 different individuals. And so whenever we had that 85 number, the easiest thing to do is whenever you're trying to project what you're trying to do, we wanted to break that down in the simplest terms to have mile markers each month. And so our goal was to bring on 7 new riders per month through the end of the grant cycle. And of course, that would leave us with bringing on a total of 8 in June, which would give us 85. David, next slide. We began the last week in October, and you can see once we started in October, we had to then project what we wanted to hit. And our goal was to hit 2 in October, and then hit 7 each month, 8 in June. And so our goal with starting late is 59, and we're only 10 riders behind that. So we are well ahead of the mark. It shows the need, and it shows the community that we are targeting, and they're desperate for this service. David, next slide. This is our trips by hour. And so like all the trips for the 6 a.m. is from 6 a.m. to 6:59 a.m. And so you can see our current trends as far as trips by hour. And of course, this is based on months. And so you can see in October, we had those 2 little small blue lines there at the very bottom, and our service ended at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. In November, it started at 6 a.m. and of course, ridership grew, trips grew, and it ended at 5. The riders that we brought in December, January, and February, their schedules were different. And so we adapted to serve the rider. And so we immediately extended our service times to meet the requirements and the needs of the riders that we were targeting. David, next slide. This breaks down an average trip by day for February. And so you see at 6 a.m. we averaged 1 trip per hour, 7 a.m. right at 6 trips per hour. And so the reason why we put in this slide is because a way for us to become a sustainable model is you have fixed costs and you have variable costs. And so insurance, vehicle, if you have just like a salaried employee, all of those are fixed costs. And so if we can increase the trips for, let's say, the 8 a.m. hour, we then can start seeing the cost per trip decrease, which means that we serve more individuals with the same funding dollars. David, next slide. Right here is our on-time criteria. So we broke it into, I think it's 7 different categories. So we have a category more than 10 minutes late. We had a total of 23. 5 to 10 minutes late, we had close to probably 180, 190. We went down to less than 5 minutes. On time is when we said, okay, we'll be there at noon, and we actually showed up at noon. And so we have a very finite gauge on how we gauge ourselves. And so our whole structure is based on how do we provide a service that people want, that people desire. On-time performance is a direct correlation to our increase in trips and our increase in ridership, because people like that reliability. And so that's just like we have quite a few that were more than 10 minutes early. So a lot of our trips are at Lively and TCC and when people are getting off work. And so when our drivers do arrive there early, they do go ahead and our system basically says that the driver is there. And so it's not like we're honking the horn and telling the rider to come out. We're waiting on them. And so that way, when the rider exits the building, they see that their driver is already there waiting on them. David, next slide. Our average minutes per trip. So we have October, November, December, all the way through February. And right now, this is our current average minutes per trip. We do group riders and we do group trips, meaning that we have a couple of people in Wakulla County that ride together when they go to the SOAR program in Tallahassee. We have other riders in Tallahassee that ride together for the SOAR program in Tallahassee also. And so we do group trips, we do have single passenger trips, but to be more efficient and more cost effective and actually to build a sustainable model, we are building a foundation of subscription trips, and then it allows us, based on availability, to pair in on-demand services, factoring our fixed cost and variable cost. David, next slide. Our average miles per trip, we have this for the entire project as well. And what you're seeing is a group effort. All the trips, we just divide them out. And so you can see where January there was more Wakulla trips than there was in February, but also February, we were able to onboard additional riders in Tallahassee, which then lowered that average miles per trip. And so once again, this goes back to the sustainability model, is how do we lower the miles on our vehicles? And this is how we do it. We increase the trips and we reduce the miles. And it's all based on the way we apply transportation strategies to the service that we're offering. And so Sandy, this is it for me. And so Sandy, we put together a survey that took, it was a survey monkey that we sent out to riders. And I don't know if Sandy, if you'd be interested in sharing those numbers.
Sure, I'd be more than happy to. On the survey, the first question that was asked was, how did you hear about iEnable? And of course, there was a percentage that came from Wakulla Senior Center, Wakulla Transportation. Lively Tech also let folks know about iEnable, as did the Lighthouse of Big Bend. I think the greatest number came from the exposure with Future Pathways. Let's see, the second question was, what is the primary purpose of your transportation need? And the overwhelming number came transportation to school. And that would be with Lively, TCC,
Pyramid,
and the Pyramid, SOAR. Let's see. And how easy or difficult is it to schedule your ride? And so almost 85% was very easy. Coming in a second, 12% that just said easy. So that was a happy chart. how easy or difficult is it to purchase the copay credits, which is made available through iEnable? And an overwhelming 80% said very easy. And then, of course, we had a small percentage said easy, somewhat easy, and we had one lone person that said very difficult. Goes on with, does your iEnable driver arrive to pick you up on time? And 100% said yes. Do you arrive to your destination on time? 100% said yes. Do you feel safe during your transport? 100% said yes. Is your iEnable driver courteous and treat you with respect? 100% said yes. And would you recommend iEnable to a friend or family member who is in need of transportation services? And 100% said yes. And the final question, on a scale from 1 to 100, how would you rate iEnable? And it was a total of 100. So that was our Survey Monkey, and we had 15 respondents.
So are there any questions about what we have done?
Hello?
Commissioner
Commissioner Gray. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry if I missed this or not. So how many riders do you have altogether versus how many respondents you had to your survey?
We have 49 riders and we had 15 respondents.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Tellez, are you there still? I think you're muted.
Microphone.
No, I didn't mute it, but anyway, it did it on its own. How Sandy, who was the other speaker?
It's Jonathan Register.
Jonathan, Sandy, I really am impressed with the focus on the ridership and the changes that you made to adjust. I think that's the biggest focus of these grants, is how do we really focus on making them happy, getting them, having a purpose for them. And I think that you all have done a really great job in doing that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
This is Commissioner Barros. I just want to say that I think your data is fantastic.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And then I just wanted to ask, did you say that you guys serve folks in Tallahassee going back to Wakulla, or is that just the return trip?
It is open cross county between the two counties and in county trips for each county. So yes, anybody who resides in Wakulla or Leon County and is eligible can participate in this project.
Right.
Great, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you, Sandy and Jonathan. I really appreciate it, and I loved your data.
Thank you so much.
Okay, our next speaker is Jorge Puente, representing City of Tallahassee, Star Metro. Star Metro is the CTC for Leon County and was awarded an ISD grant project to deliver TD services using AT&T.
Thank you, Commissioner Tellez. This is Jorge Puente, my first time presenting to the CTD Commission audience. So thank you again for all your time. And so I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Jorge Puente, the Assistant Paratransit Manager here at the Star Metro, a department within the City of Tallahassee. And to just give you a very good picture of what we do is that the Dollar Ride program of Star Metro provides curb-to-curb transportation to citizens with a qualifying disability within 3/4 mile of a Star Metro fixed route system in compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act. And also, it also provides services to individuals that are beyond 3/4 of a mile, but within the urbanized area of Leon County. And then also as well provide services to individuals that are beyond 3/4 of a mile, that are beyond in the non-urbanized area of Leon County. And to give you a little bit more background information of what we do is that on the 2019 to 2020 annual operating report, which I imagine you're all familiar, and that David presents, and we provided 121,654 paratransit trips to 1,689 individual customers. And out of that number, 18,507 trips were funded by the Transportation Disadvantage Trip and Equipment Grant. That will be 15.2%. Again, 18,507 trips funded by the TD program. So we have that background information. And so next slide, please, David. And so how it began, the options program. We have a need. We have an existing need, and it has been an existing need for some time. Obviously, during COVID, we all experimented a number of things. And in that one is that we need to supplement overburdened paratransit services with transportation networking companies. Basically, we have an imbalance of supply and demand. We have a lot of demand for trips. We lack a supply, enough supply to meet that demand. And in this day and age, the supply consists of both vehicles and drivers. And so that's our need. And our desire is to improve flexibility and choices for customers. Again, the flexibility and choices are very important to our customers. And I'm very glad that this presentation comes after our friends at Wakula, both Sandy and Jonathan did a great job, and this espouses the reality that if we all do it in the area that we're all in, if we all do a great job, that feeds on itself. So I imagine that we all have that need to supplement the imbalance of supply and demand, and I'm glad and I'm very thankful for the CTD for us to be awarded this grant, and we are pursuing it for next year too. And so on April 20th, 2022, and the on-demand pilot program was approved by the City of Tallahassee City Commission. Again, we are a department within the City of Tallahassee. Next slide, please. And so the parameters for the option program that exists within the Dollar Ride program of Star Metro is leverage existing TNC contracts by other Florida agencies and learn from their experience. I'm very glad again that PSTA presented today. And so what we're looking for, and they really helped us out to look at the contracts and see what we can piggyback on. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that was one of our parameters. And then the cost savings or cost neutral for Star Metro. This program must bring savings to our Star Metro operations or be cost neutral, at least for Star Metro. The third one would be incentivize customers to schedule same-day trips using smartphone applications. Again, giving the option, giving the customer the flexibility of providing same-day trips, and then also the smartphone application, making sure that they have the option to use a smartphone that they have and then be able to interact with the trip, how it is being fulfilled through the application of the would-be provider. And then track completed trips through provider dashboards. Again, what we aim for this program is for the lion's share of interactions between the client and the would-be provider would be themselves through the app. That's what we're aiming for this program. Next slide, please. The options basic, basically the basics of this program would be eligible customers will opt in to the pilot program. So Star Metro Dollar Ride program already has an application process to get any client into the Dollar Ride program. And so this would be the customer will be able to opt in into the options program that it's within the Dollar Ride program. The individual will download the TNC app of their choice onto a device, again, stressing the flexibility and choice. And then the individual would set up an account with the TNC through their app, including the fare payment. And so the individual will request a ride when needed, either through the VNC, either the TNC app or the Star Metro call center. Why the second one? Because we want to provide the choice, the flexibility to the individual, and we understand that not everybody's super tech savvy, and so we want to be able to give the choice to the individual. And so the trips and call center would be available during the dial ride operation hours. And so it would correspond with the dial ride operating hours because we want to provide that support. And that means the Star Metro call center would be available if there's any questions that the individual has. But again, the lion's share of their interactions, seeing where the trip, where the car is, where the driver is, and so forth, would be on the app, on the TNC app. And then $2.50 base fare for the customer. And then apart from the $2.50, once the trip begins, there will be a contracted rate, or basically a subsidized rate, that Star Metro will be paying. And then once that is depleted, once that we reach that limit, the individual's trip reaches that limit, everything else would be on the individual. So basically, again, the individual pays a $2.50 base fare, and then the trip begins, it is subsidized up to a rate, and then after that rate, the individual pays the remainder. And so once that trip is completed, the individual will be able to rate the driver and then complete a satisfaction survey. Next slide, please. So the expectations with this program is twofold: increase customer satisfaction, on-time performance, and system capacity and reliability, and as well as decrease unnecessary customer service calls, which take time and resources, the customer complaints, which to resolve in the back end, because we always respond to any complaint from a customer within 48 hours, it takes time and resources, and to decrease the missed trips and same-day cancellations, which is an issue to resolve, and also it affects our providers that we serve currently, that we have currently that fulfill trips for us. And just a quick note on the app, us, in a sense, pushing for the app, the interactions to happen on the app, is not only for this program, it's also, we're doing that same push for all of our clients on the direct program, as well as the fixed route side of our Star Metro operation. So basically, we're trying to get them on the app because that gives us the data that we will really need to do analysis on how to improve our services. And next slide, please. And so the current status of the program, we are currently negotiating with the would-be providers, Lyft, Uber, we all know them, Userve too, and they have a local presence here in Tallahassee. And so we're getting the contracts at a finishing stage. And so with Lyft and Uber, we've been engaging with them for the last 7-8 months since I've been here. I've been with Star Metro for the last 8 months, around that. And so with Userve, it has been a little bit more recent, and we have applied what we have learned from both negotiating with Lyft and Uber to Userve, and we're getting to a really good stage. They're being very proactive, and so we're trying to get the cost down, and then we will give it to procurement, which would be the quarterback. Remember, we're again a department within the city of Tallahassee, so procurement will take the lead into coordinating with risk department and legal department to make that contract a reality. And so that's where we are with both Lyft and Uber. They're already under the process of getting with risk department, with legal, and then getting that finished. Next slide, please. And so I really want to go into a positive note because we are ready to go. And actually, to tell you the truth, we have taken the time, since it's taken some time, and I want to paint a clear picture. It has taken us some time to get this to the finishing stage, but it has allowed us to work on the marketing material that we're almost complete. I think we're completed on the marketing material, and so the launch schedule would be contract finalized, then the training, which we already have a very good idea what we're going to train our other department, other City of Tallahassee department, the customer service operations. And then our own dispatch and operations divisions, what we're going to train them. Again, how does the program operate? What does the client expect? What are the frequently asked questions from the clients? We have the first to our partners, and we also have a beta test list of individuals that are anxious to go into the program and try it out. So we really are lucky in Leon County that we have awesome clients that want to test the services that we provide. And then it's going to be open for all of our Dial Right customers. Again, we already have an application process in place to accept individuals into the Dial Right program, and they would be able to opt in into the options program. And that includes mail letters, how-to brochures. We would email information. We would have comprehensive service outreach, customer service outreach that includes earned media, social media, and so much more. And if I can ask David to click on the Dial Right options image on the bottom right, and that actually gives you a link to that draft website that we already have prepared, that is ready to go and to communicate it to Leon County residents and visitors at large. And so again, I'm really happy that we've had the order of presentations, because our friends at Wakulla County, if we get this ready to go and we want to do it right and we want to make it sustainable, it's going to benefit everybody inside the Leon County and everybody in the area. So I wanted to highlight that. So I
Jorge,
think
I'm
that,
sorry to interrupt your presentation. Do you want me to specifically pull up the window and walk through it as part of the presentation? Because I have to change out my screen to do that, but I'm happy to do so if that's what you want to do as
I
part of the
would love to
presentation.
show the website to all the individuals that are here in the presentation, to just show you the website, what we have built there.
All right, give me 1 second. I gotta switch it over. Can you see
Perfect.
it?
So yes, we can all see it. And so
Okay,
basically,
just guide me to what you want me to, where you want me to go.
sure. So it provides a very good overview of the program, what it is, and it tells our would-be providers, again, giving that choice to the individual, being able to choose from the providers. And so how does it compare to our regular Dial Right services? Again, if you join the opt-in, if the individuals opt into the options program, they can still do the next day Dial Right services. It's not, you have to choose. No, you can do multiple, right? And so go down, it tells you the Dial Right operation hours, trip availability, and so the fares too. It explains a little bit more about that. And again, it's a draft website. Keep going down. Who is eligible for the options program, and how does it work, and so forth. So basically, I think that everybody get the gist of the website, and we are ready to go. And that's what we're trying to do with the contracts with Uber, Lyft, and Userve. We are getting them done in the right way. And so most probably, I already think there are a couple questions regarding the contract. What might be the stumbling block? It's about the liability part and also the data gathering part. And so with the risk, it's really about making sure that focusing on the 1% cases, if there's any accident or if there's any, something that nobody wants to happen, what if it happens? What's on the contract is what's going to be a law for both of us to execute. And then also, if there's any litigation, that's what's going to be held up at court. So that's why we're spending a considerable amount of time looking at the contracts to see the liability part of it. And again, we fall within the city of Tallahassee's umbrella. Star Metro is not a transit authority, right? And with the data gathering part, we would also like to be included when you have communications with the clients. If there's something that might be an unruly driver or something like that, we want to be able to interact with the customer and to know that, so that our customer satisfaction is up. The issue that we're having with a couple of our providers is they shield that information a little bit, because in the name of privacy, of user privacy, but we are finding other ways to let that client know that if you're going into the program, you also would expect to communicate to us regarding how that would-be providers would be performing. So I think that's that. I want to leave room for questions, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hi, this is Commissioner Barres. I have 2 quick questions. So one, I know you said you guys have an existing application process and individuals will be able to opt in at that point. What are your plans as far as the process for existing customers to opt into the program? And then my second question is just, are there any concerns around possible confusion of the fare? Because, a trip on the regular style ride or any paratransit is a flat fee. If you do Uber or Lyft directly, you see the price before you schedule the ride. And from what I'm understanding, you said you guys pay a specific amount and then the rest would be on the rider. How would that, do you guys expect any confusion about that? And the amount that you guys pay, is that going to be the same amount for every rider? How are you guys going to deal with that?
Of course, and very good questions, by the way. The first question, we plan regarding how we're going to get our existing customers into the options program if they choose to. We're going to make sure that we have a robust customer service approach in communicating with our clients, meaning we're going to send a couple email blasts way before, during, and then after the program started to let them know, hey, we do not want to be the best kept secret. The program is open, and everybody who can opt in, everybody who wants to opt in, they can opt in. And so basically, what we're saying is you have both the TNC app that you can interact with, and then also our customer service center. So basically, to answer your question, we're going to interact with all of our clients way before, during, and after about the options program. We don't want it to be the best kept secret because we want to hit our goals about this grant. And so we will be communicating with our existing customers through email blasts and maybe events and so forth. And so to answer your second question, it's a very good question. And basically, we in almost all the times that we've had to explain how this funding works. It's a little bit complicated. So what we will do to explain it to the client in a very clear way is that if you notice on Uber and Lyft, they tell you how much the trip is going to be, right? Even before you accept it. So what we have been in contact with both of them is that when we let them know, hey, this individual is under the program, this individual's account of Uber or Lyft would already be shown the subsidy that is being put into the trip, right? That person, if it's within Leon County, would have that subsidy enabled. So every time that they say, hey, I want to go from my home onto Walgreens or CVS, the algorithm of the would-be provider would be able to figure out, hey, it's going to cost this, right, in total, but then subtract the subsidy amount, and this is how it's going to be end up. So that's why the TNC app is so important with our would-be providers, that it has the capacity to clearly show how much the trip would be.
Great, thank you so much.
Of course.
Hi, this is Krista Carter. Quick question, and I may have missed it. You might have already said it. You've talked about going through the process with the contracts, doing the finalization. Are you anticipating that this is going to have an on-time start date for the beginning of the grant?
Mrs. Carter, we thank you for that question. And I believe we are in the final stages with our first 2 providers. And with USERV, we're working really hard on that one. We expect, or we aim for, before June, and that's what we're aiming for. And that's as far as I can say, because how many other parts are involved in that process.
And with the process you just described about how the fees and interaction between the call center now and the previous, I guess, function of how this was going or how this was happening. Maybe this is I don't know if I'm allowed to even say this, a suggestion, just to make sure that that's really outlined in the grant application, because it is very confusing. So that's just something I'd like to see in detail written.
10-4. Thank you for that suggestion, and we will execute. Thank you for that, Mrs. Carter.
Thank you.
Jorge, this is Commissioner Tellez. You haven't, am I correct? You have not started it due to contract negotiations, correct?
You're correct, Commissioner Tellez.
So if you're thinking of starting in June, the end of the fiscal year is July. So are you planning on submitting a new grant for the 23-24 year?
You're correct, Commissioner Tellez.
Okay, I think you answered my question.
And we have submitted the early version to get all the suggestions and all the comments. And with that, we'll make sure to get a very good grant application for the next year.
And one more question. You know, we've been doing this since 2016, and we have had several counties, several grants that have worked with Uber and Lyft. Have you thought about contacting or finding out what others have done, or to get an idea of the issues with liability and data collection?
Yes, and so that begins our process of what we were thinking for of beginning this program. And we did some research regarding how others within the state of Florida get their contract signed up with the would-be providers. And so that's why we decided on doing a piggyback contract. And I'm glad, again, PSTA is in this presentation, because that's the contract that we decided to piggyback. Our assumption was that it was going to take a lot less time when we piggybacked, and that was not the case. And actually, David, if you go into a presentation, go into the slide before that one. Okay, I think there is a missing slide there, but basically what we wanted to say was that we learned 4 things out of our experience right now, and one of it is that there's a difference between being in a municipality and being a transportation authority, and also what is being required by FTA, what's being required by FDOT, and what's not. And when we negotiate with the would-be providers, that's a part that we're missing, saying, hey, this is required by FDOT or this is required by FTA, gives us in a stronger position to negotiate. Well, when it's not basically about the data requirements, that TNCs are not required to show data, that gives us on a not a strong footing to say we need this from you. Again, Uber and Lyft and all these companies are multinational companies. So that's a negotiation that we're trying to have. And again, fitting what with the city of Tallahassee's umbrella of requirements. So to answer your question, that's why we did a little bit of piggybacking. That's what we assume. That's what we tried to do. It was not a wrong assumption, but it's just a reality of using the piggyback contract to fit the narrative and the reality of the city of Tallahassee and Beyond County residents.
Yeah, it sounds very complicated.
I think that I have become a little bit of a lawyer, but I'm not.
Oh my goodness. Well, we wish you well.
Just real quick, Jorge, if you could, I think it was on our end that we just missed the slide when we were putting them all together. So I'm sorry about that, but we will have all the slides posted on our website so that the folks can see it. And I'm happy to send any more additional information to the commissioners and advisors if you need me to clarify that piece.
Well, if you want, David, I have it open here on my end because, I would really like to show this to a commissioner so that they can all see it. If I can, I can speak a little bit more if you give me 1 or 2 minutes to talk about that slide.
I don't think we can do that, Jorge, just because of the way our streaming or our virtual is set up. But what I'll do is I promise you, I'll send that to the commissioners. And then if there's any specific questions that we have, we'll follow up with you, or vice versa. If you have specific something to elaborate on, I'll be sure to send that to them. And I'm very sorry about that again.
It's all good. Thank you, David, and thanks you, commissioners.
Thank you. Any more questions for Jorge? Okay, thank you, Jorge. Really appreciate it. Okay, so our final speaker is Lamar Hobbs from Bay County Board of County Commissioners. The BOCC is the CTC for Bay County and was awarded the ISD grant project in primary support connector services for TD residents in Access Fixed Route Transfer Center in Panama City. Thank you for joining us, Lamar.
Oh, thank you for having us. I appreciate the opportunity, and we appreciate the commission's support in supporting us in this endeavor. So today I wanted us to talk briefly about our program, and basically this is our agenda for the areas that we plan to cover during this presentation. First, we'll just give you a project overview of exactly what this project is about and how the overarching goals are going to be accomplished. We're going to talk about our year-to-date activities, our marketing assets, which are something we're very proud of, the timeline on this project, budget, and then of course we're going to talk about our next steps as we move forward with the project. Next slide, please. So just to kind of give you a real quick overview of how this thing come to be, we started receiving a lot of requests from a specific area within Bay County. It's a very urbanized area, or excuse me, a very rural area in the unincorporated area of Bay County, requesting more access to public transportation. Specifically, they were wanting to have access to medical appointments, that type of thing. And so we went up and we actually had a town hall meeting with the residents in that area. And we also coordinated with the school for that area, the elementary school. And the principal there, we like to refer to her as the town mayor for that particular area. She has a she's very engaged in the community there and seems to know a lot of the concerns from the citizens. So, we were able to meet with her. And what we found is that in this particular area, it's very rural, and that a lot of the people that live within the area meet the qualification eligibility to be considered transportation disadvantaged. And while we were offering TD services to this area, we found that there were some issues that some of these riders were faced with that we wanted to hopefully resolve with this program. One of the things in particular that they continued to comment about was the lack of availability in real time, if you will. So currently our demand response system requires a minimum of a 24-hour notification for reservations. And a lot of people, that did not work for them, whether it be they needed to get to their job, get to a doctor's appointment, run to the store, or go to some sort of a social need. They needed to be able to access that service in real time. And I think ultimately our goal should be to provide services as quickly and as soon as possible for riders that want to engage in public transportation. So in looking at that, we began to assess some possibilities on how we could resolve the issues or meet the need in this particular area. And the particular area that we're talking about essentially runs from what we call the Panama City Mall, which is one of our transfer points. And then it runs north on Highway 231 all the way up to Highway 20, which is about a 29-mile stretch of Highway 231 that currently has very limited access to public transportation. And so I'm very fortunate in the fact that I get to sit on the FPTA board and I get to hear organizations like PTSA and Palm Trans, some of these other agencies that have already have tried and true methods for resolving some of the same problems that we're dealing with. And in particular, I got the opportunity to hear one of PTSA's staff members speak specifically about their partnerships with TNCs and how they were utilizing those partnerships to better service their community. And so as we began to look at that, we found that there was the opportunity for us to partner specifically with Uber. And the main reason we looked at partnering with Uber was because that is the predominant organization available here in Bay County. We also have Lyft. However, Lyft is not as known in Bay County currently as Uber is. And because this was a pilot project we were trying for the first time, we made the decision to specifically go with Uber for the purposes of this pilot project. Next slide, please. So obviously our goals is to make fixed route transportation or transportation in general available to those people that are living in this rural area. So the initial thought is if we can get those people in that area access to our fixed route system, it would allow them overall access to the community as a whole. So because the Panama City Mall is a transfer point, what our intent is to go up and service that area of that rural area that we've discussed and bring those riders back down into the Panama City Mall area so that they could then transfer onto the fixed route service and essentially gain access to all areas of the community. Now, another thing that we wanted to do was we have some residents living in that area that don't necessarily want access to the fixed route community or the fixed route service, but they do want to go to the Winn-Dixie, which is still within that rural area, so for shopping purposes, or they maybe have their doctor is in that rural area. So we are also providing trips within the rural area as well as taking people to the transfer point at the Panama City Mall so that they can access the fixed route system. And of course, ultimately the goal there is to provide them opportunities for employment, medical care, shopping, and then social activities. Next slide, please. So the year-to-date activities, we've coordinated with Uber. This is a pilot project for us, obviously. So this is our first time dealing with TNCs. We have coordinated with Uber. The contract process was very lengthy. We were eventually able to finalize a contract with Uber. We are in the process of finalizing now the marketing issues with Uber because they are a branded company. They have a lot of concerns in terms of how they're going to be marketed, and our marketing team has done a great job as far as coordinating with Uber and getting their concerns on marketing resolved. Next, we coordinated with our operator. We have a contracted operator here in Bay County for our demand response, and that's First Transit. I think they're now called TransDev. They recently were bought out, and so we had to coordinate with them. We had to get the dispatchers aware of the training. We had to make the drivers that are going to be providing the services for the system the training necessary. Our administrators aware of the training. We also had to involve our finance department so that they would understand clearly how the bills are going to be paid and how the income is going to be coming in. Then we essentially had to do a budget review, and I want to thank the staff of the TD Commission for taking the time to go through this with us as we were applying for this grant and making sure that we had properly budgeted for this project and ensure that we had the money necessary to make this project successful. And they just did a great job on working with us on that. And then lastly is the development of the marketing assets, which we've already done. We're very proud of our marketing assets, and as we go into the presentation a little bit more, we're going to give you the opportunity to see some of those marketing assets and how we're going to publicize this to the area. that we plan on targeting. Next slide, please. So as we talked about the marketing assets, we'll get into that. This is one of the first things we did is we created a landing page for those customers that are interested in utilizing what we call Bayway On Demand Plus Uber partnership. They can access that. They get any information that they potentially could need about the system, how to access the system. We also have the ability for them to connect to our eligibility application so that they can become certified as being TD eligible on this web landing page as well. And the feedback we've gotten so far, even though we haven't actually launched it yet, has been very positive, both from Uber, our marketing folks, and then our community members that we've tossed this to for their impression. And so far, as I said, it's been very positive. Next slide, please. So the next thing we're going to do is an e-blast. And as you can see here, this is the e-blast that we prepared to send out. We have a large majority of our riders that like communication through email. And so we find that doing e-blasts such as this are some of the best ways to get the information out to the community and make the riders aware of the new services that we're offering and how to access those services. And this, of course, as I said, explains the system a little bit to them, gives them the opportunity to access the website landing page so they can learn even more information about this program and how they can participate. Next slide, please. These are our digital ads that we have, and David, I don't know if you have the ability there in the PowerPoints, but each of these have a area that is a little play button that will allow you to kind of get the full effect of what the digital ad looks like. I don't know if you have that there, David, or not. Oh, maybe not. So
I'm sorry, Lamar. What would is there supposed to be clicking on something specific?
Yeah, there should be a play button, and it might be in the conversion of sending this over, it might have got dropped, but there's typically a play button in the middle of each of the pictures that you can push, and it'll access the ad for you.
Sorry about that. No, it's not popping up on my screen, but again, we sent out the presentations to the commissioners and the advisors, so perhaps it's on there. If not, we'll resend it to them.
That's okay. I'm gonna act it out for them if that's okay.
That's good with us.
All right. So this actually gets really high ratings from our ridership, and that's our digital ads that we do through Facebook and Instagram. We have overwhelming response to these digital ads, and we found that we get over the last year that we've been doing these, that we have just been able to really target and meet the needs of our ridership as far as getting information out there about our programs and specifically about this program. And we believe the digital ads are going to be one of the most successful things that we offer in terms of marketing this program. Next slide, please. Then we're going to have a direct mail piece. So because we are specifically targeting a certain area of Bay County, we struggled with how are we going to make them aware, because we obviously don't want to send this out to people that are not going to be able to utilize the program. So we wanted to target those riders that we currently already have applications on that are living within this area that we're talking about and that would be able to utilize this system. So we determined that one of the best things we could do is that we would issue this direct mail piece through the mail to these residents that live within this 231 corridor, if you will, the zip code along that area, just kind of making them aware of the program, making them, again, aware of how to ride and what the system is all about or the program is all about, and encouraging their participation in the program. Next slide, please. And this is probably the thing that I'm most intrigued by. Our marketing team, I thought, really did a good job with this and coming up with this idea. And that's an onboard door hanger. And they're essentially just like you would get from any pizza delivery companies or anybody else trying to generate interest in their product. These are simply door hangers, but instead of hanging them on your door, we actually hang them on the handrails inside the bus, and riders, as they utilize the system, see these things hanging there, and as they want to take something with them for more information about the program, they can simply just take one of these door hangers down from the handrail and take it with them. And this is something that I think is a new and intriguing way to advertise our product. And we believe this is going to be very successful, to the point that not only with this program, but I think with other programs that we have as well throughout Bayway. Next slide, please. So let's talk about our timeline, and this is where it gets a little bit difficult for us. So one of the problems that we felt, and I think it's already been touched on here by the TD Commission, and that is we were a little late in getting our grant. We actually didn't receive the grant until the last part of November, first part of December. So that held us up on being able to sign a contract with Uber, and also held us up, obviously, on being able to get our marketing materials ready, because obviously that all involves a cost, and we didn't want to go out on a limb and put basically have a cost that we might not be able to recoup if we didn't get the grant, or if we didn't get the grant, not a cost that we wouldn't be able to make use of, if you will. So that was one of the issues. We have since obviously got the grant now. We have finalized our contract with Uber, and the project was accepted by the TD Commission, and we were ready to move forward. The next thing in Q2, and this is 2022, the project was initiated. We were able to coordinate with Uber. We were able to, as we talked about earlier, get our budget in line with exactly what we were going to need to make this program successful. And we have finalized that. And now we're ready to move into our final launch, and that is the public launch, which we hope to do within the next couple weeks, if not by April the 1st. And again, one of the problems that we face there is not only the fact that we were delayed in being able to get the grant, but also in dealing with Uber, we found that there were some difficulties, just quite honestly, in working with Uber in terms of the contract, in terms of the marketing specifically has been very difficult. As a matter of fact, just this week we were able to finalize our marketing with Uber, and we've actually been dealing with them since December on the marketing aspects of this project. Again, they're a branded company. They're very concerned about their brand and making sure that what we're doing with their brand is going to fit with what they actually provide, or their intent. But we've been able to get through those hurdles, and we're ready to deploy to the markets our assets, our website, our public relations, and then of course our advertising that we believe is going to be necessary to make the program successful. Next slide, please. So just to kind of give you an overview of what our budget initially, obviously our intent was to obviously expend as much of this funding as we can to provide the services as we can. Because of the late start, we don't anticipate obviously that we're going to need this amount of funding, but initially the TD Commission approved $286,074 in state funds. We were able to secure a local match from our local contributions from our surrounding cities in the amount of a 10% match of $31,786 for a total project cost of $317,860. And while that is a significant cost, one of the things we've learned is utilizing TNCs is particularly more cost effective than most of the time than dealing with your operators who have a far greater cost for services than TNCs. Next slide, please. So what are the next steps? So the next steps are we're going to engage the public using the following tactics. We're going to use public relations. We're going to go back out, meet with those community members and with with those educators at that school, make them aware that we're ready to launch the program. We've already started doing a little bit of this just to get feedback on how well the program would probably be received once it was launched. And the overwhelming response we've been getting back is this is going to be fantastic. And people seem to be really excited about it. So we believe that once we push that button to launch, we're going to see a lot of people take advantage of this program. Next is going to be our local business outreach, our senior citizens, or excuse me, senior centers, hospitals, doctors' offices. So one of the things that we are fortunate is within this area, they've just recently built a new hospital. We have a good relationship with that hospital, and we're going to make it available to them as far as information. We also have a lot of people in this area that attend our local senior centers. So we're going to partner with our senior centers to get this information out to those people as well. And then, of course, within the area, we also have doctors' offices, and a lot of riders within that area utilize doctors' offices throughout the county. And we're going to work with those to get the information out. And we find that a lot of our doctors' officers are specifically instrumental in helping a lot of their patients get access to these services because they recognize the necessity for them. We're going to obviously provide advertising, which we've showed you just a few minutes ago, the e-blast, and then of course the bus signage. That's the door hangers that are going to be on the bus. And we're going to make those available as quickly as possible so that we can generate interest in the program. Moving forward, after we launch the program, we're going to begin to measure the steps to take a look and see what the results are. Is this a worthwhile program? Is it a valuable program to the community? And is it worth the TD Commission's investment? And we believe it will be, but obviously we're going to need the results of those results from the project to ultimately make the decision that this is a good and worthwhile project. And then, of course, we're going to report on our successes to you and utilize those successes to justify the future expansion of the program and the need for additional funding should it be necessary. The next slide, I'm sorry. And that pretty much concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, and thank you again for the opportunity to present to you today.
Thank you, Lamar. Any questions for Lamar?
Hi, Commissioner Barrios. I was wondering, sorry if I missed it, what is going to be the cost to the rider per trip? And then also I was just wondering, for those who are connecting to the fixed route service, do you guys subsidize the bus passes, or are they pretty much on their own once they get to the fixed route service?
So that's a great question. The cost is going to be $1.50. It's the same copay cost that we currently charge for TD clients now. The system as a whole will absorb the cost that Uber will charge for the remaining cost. So essentially, once the client chooses to access the Uber app, they will be able to, and because it's a geo-fenced area, we're able to quickly recognize that the person that is within that geo-fenced area is a TD client. And there's, from what I get from Uber and our staff, there's a lot of algorithms that go into that recognize them as a already existing TD client, and then also recognizing that they're within that geo-fenced area. But once they do that, they access the app, they'll have the option of selecting either Uber as a transportation provider, or they can select one of our buses, because we recognize that we are going to have those people out there that need ADA assistance. We're going to need an ADA accessible vehicle, so we're giving that option as well for those that need it. And either way, the cost to the rider is going to be the $1.50, and then we'll absorb the remaining cost utilizing the grant funds associated with this program to pay Uber or our operator for the service that's provided. And then in terms of the transfer over to the fixed route system, we currently already offer discounted rates to riders that have disabilities or senior citizens and meet a lot of the criteria that are eligibility, and it reduces the fare from $1.50 down to 75 cents. However, if the person decides to take the fixed route system and they do not meet the criteria for the discounted rate, they would pay the $1.50 fare for the trip pass to get to their destination that they need.
It sounds like a terrific program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Lamar? Okay.
I've got one thing or two things actually, if it's all right. First off, Lamar, thank you for the presentation. If you wouldn't mind resending, if you have the ability to check the play modes that you said they were not in the original one that we had. So if you don't mind sending that to us, then we can resend that out.
Okay.
And then before we get to public comment, if it's all right, Commissioner Tellez, I'd like to go back to Jorge's presentation. We did pull up the slide, and I'm sorry that that was on our end, that we left that one out, if that's okay, just to so that everyone can see it. And then Jorge, I don't know if you're still on, but if you wanted to just touch on this real quick.
Of course. Thank you again, David. I really appreciate that. And the whole team at CTD is awesome people. And so basically the lessons learned, and all contracts are not equal. There are benefits and pitfalls of leveraging other contracts. Basically what I was talking to about, and I'm very glad the order of presentations, it seems that we're not the only ones having issues with the would-be contractors, because all contracts are not created equal. The benefits that we thought that we were going to have with the piggybacking did not materialize. There are other benefits that came with that piggybacking that we have been able to furnish, and the reliability of the would-be providers and other things. But again, that's what we have learned and not assume, right? And the second point, all transit is not created equal. The municipality and transportation authorities, again, we are a department of the city of Tallahassee. We have to fit into what our risk department, our legal department understands that would be correct, that would fall in line with what's acceptable within the city of Tallahassee, with the city attorney, with other parties. And then we move forward with approaching the would-be providers with our feedback with the contracts. And then the third one will be the devil is in the detail. They do not fall under FTA and FDOT authority. Again, I explained, and it helps a lot when we say, oh yeah, by the way, FTA requires that information. Most probably in the future, that will happen. That FTA will require some information from the would-be providers, data, trip information, so forth, but that's not the case yet. So that's, and because we're trying to do it now, that's something that we have learned. And then basically start early. And from my personal experience, before I was in Lee County at Lee-Tran, and so I knew that the legal was going to take some time because we did partner with Uber, but this one has been an eye-opener and a very good lesson in my young professional career, that you have to start early everything that you do. And especially since we promised our city commission on 2022 that we would get this program going. So a lot of lessons we're already learning from committing this effort. And I think that's that for me. If anybody has any questions, of course.
Thank you, Jorge. Okay. Does anybody have any questions, additional questions for Jorge? Okay, if not, we're ready to go into our public comments section. We will now invite public comments from other members of the audience. If you're interested in speaking, please indicate in the chat box, and our team will call on your name. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Please direct your comments to the presentations in ISD grant program. Speakers, please remember to unmute your line and press *6 if you are participating by phone. Please indicate your name, organization represented, and county of residence for the record. Are there any public comments?
First up, we have, I'm going to ask if Sherry can read the comment that was in the chat box regarding the project that was presented for Wakulla and Leon County, and then we'll see if there's any others from there.
Okay, this is from Amanda Lewis, and her email is amanda@futurepathwaysflorida.com. So kind of a lengthy comment, but here we go. Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry I couldn't stay for the whole meeting or speak, but I wanted to be sure to comment on the extreme success of iEnable for both Leon and Wakulla counties. My name is Amanda Lewis, and I co-own a disability service agency in Tallahassee for adults with disabilities. The barrier of transportation has been exhausting and limiting, to say the least, for our clients. Before iEnable, the options were limited, expensive, unreliable, and safety standards questioned. When the team first came to Tallahassee, they offered a parent Q&A night to answer all questions. They were totally an open door and were able to make parents feel at ease. Already a great start. As our clients started signing up, we realized iEnable is more than a transportation service. They build relationships with their clients. They go the extra mile and help those walk into their destination to ensure comfort and safety. Since iEnable has started, so many doors have opened for our clients. They can now easily get to social events, their jobs, and other places in the community with zero stress, and they're on time. Every family that has used iEnable has been happy with their services. We've even been able to teach our clients how to set up and pay for rides themselves, increasing their independence even more. Many people are becoming aware of this beneficial program, and we hope it is here to stay indefinitely. I recently spoke with APD, another state agency, and they mentioned how successful it was in Escambia County when they ran it there. This is the answer to so many families' prayers. Please reach out to me should you have any questions. Future Pathways is grateful for this program and fully supporting. Amanda.
Thank you, Sherry. Are there any? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't see any other public comments in the chat box, but I don't know about, you can open the mic.
Is there anyone on that would like to make a public comment that's on the phone or on the? I suppose not. Okay, well, if there's no public comments, then I'm going to go ahead and thank all of you speakers for your presentations, and we really appreciate everyone for participating in today's workshop. The Commission will hold a virtually training webinar on Thursday, April 6th at 10 a.m. This will provide one more training opportunity for ISD grant applications prior to the final deadline on April 14th. So we strongly encourage CTCs to participate in that webinar. The recording and presentations from today's workshop will be posted shortly on the Commission's website. Thank you again and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. David?